On this episode of the program, I'm excited to feature two legal giants who recently retired from the bench, and I'm talking about Justice Toyin and Justice Taiwo. Justice Taiwo was born on July 31st, 1957. He attended many schools, including the African Church Grammar School, Ibadan, Oyo State, the Ahmadiyya Grammar School, Iwo, Osun State, and the International School, University of Ibadan, before proceeding to the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, in Ile-Ife, Osun State, where he studied history and politics for his first degree. He would later study law at the University of Ibadan. Before joining the bench, he was an active barman who held several positions. At one time, he was the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch, and later he rose to become the second vice president of the association. He joined the bench in 2015 when he was appointed a judge of the Federal High Court. Justice Toyin Taiwo, who joined the bench much earlier before her husband, was born in London on September 22, 1957. She attended the All Saints Church School, Ibadan, the International School, University of Ibadan, Oyo State, where she met and began dating her husband in 1975, after which she proceeded to the University of Ife, where she obtained a Bachelor of Law LLB. The couple were married in 1981. Justice Toyin later attended the University of Lagos, where she earned a master's in law. She joined the Lagos State Judiciary as a magistrate in 1989 and was elevated as a judge of the High Court in 2004. In 2022, the couple retired from the bench just 3 months apart, while Justice Taiwo retired in July from the Federal High Court after clocking the mandatory retirement age of 65. His better half, Justice Toyin Taiwo, retired in September from the Lagos High Court after she also clocked 65. Following our request for an interview, they graciously invited the Law Weekly crew to their home, where we sat down for this conversation. I started by asking about their journey to the bench and what the journey was like for them.
I think it's more like faith or spiritual than physical, you know. And but then we've had couples on the bench at the same time, but it's been a while. But presently there are couples on the same bench now. No, not at all.
But it was a decision that you both agreed on when you decided to come onto the bench after?
Yes, we agreed on it when I decided, or when, let me put it this way, when God decided that I should be a judge, yes.
You know, I read an interview where you said that you didn't want to be a judge and you didn't want to be a senior advocate. I would have thought that that would be the natural progression. Why?
I don't beg people. I don't lobby for anything. I let things just slide. Let it just slide. Let it move. Yes, let it happen naturally. So I was okay with my practice. So there are so many very good lawyers who are not senior advocates of Nigeria and who are not judges. But that doesn't remove from them the fact that they are very sound and intelligent. And I'd always loved the MBA, and I still like the MBA. So that's me. Natural flow. Yeah.
Milo, if you joined the bench earlier than your husband, how would you describe your time on the bench? Any fond memories that you can share with us, especially from your days as a magistrate?
Well, the magistracy was a stepping stone to the higher bench. I enjoyed it. I felt satisfied doing it, and I felt that I had found my niche there. I really wasn't interested in the bar. I'm not a bar person at all. I feel very comfortable on the bench. So when I became a magistrate, I just flowed into it. But the magistracy is such that it takes time to become a judge. I spent 15 years on the lower bench before I became a judge of the High Court. It's very taxing and can be very frustrating for a magistrate who is waiting to become a judge. And over the years, the number of magistrates that have increased such that out of 160 magistrates, maybe 3 or 4 will be appointed. So that was only the frustration I had with the lower bench. Otherwise, and then apart from that, the salary wasn't very good, the remuneration wasn't good.
I'm not sure it still is.
Well, they've tried to improve it. Lagos State government has tried. I mean, we have to give them that. Over the years, they've tried to improve the lot of magistrates. They've started giving them cars. When I was on the bench, I never had a car. I used my personal car. I went in buses. I could be posted anywhere. We had an association of magistrates. I became the chairman of that association. That was a fun memory from Lagos State. And I think I was the VP of the national body for a few months, So I enjoyed those. And then training, we had training then. And we still do now. So those are the fun memories I can really associate with the magistracy.
Milord, you practiced for a long time before you joined the bench. Would you say that your experience as a lawyer and as an active barman made much of an impact when you joined the bench?
Of course, it's very, very important to mention that the experience I brought in from the bar assisted me on the bench because I was very active. I was not doing anything aside litigation. So I was in and out of court. So there was no abracadabra that anybody was bringing from the bar that we had not really. Yes, we knew all these things. So once you file an application, and I detect that this was what we had done before, and I know that this is for a reason, because some people file applications are filed for many reasons, good or bad. So I was able to detect that, okay, yes, this is my man coming from the bar. Let's deal with it as a barman, of course, as a judge. So that's just it. But the only aspect that I know stands out, people who had been on the at the bar and now translate to the bench, is that they believe in the rule of law. You can't fault it, especially if you had been on the vanguard of those who had been asking that the lot of the common man be bettered, and then of course the issue of fundamental rights. These are issues that most active bar people are used to. So when you come to the bench, you deploy that as to your advantage. So it's quite an experience.
Milord, let me come back to you. You handled a lot of high-profile cases when you were on the bench. I recall the case of Evans, the billionaire kidnapper, when you were at the Special Offences Court, and that of Baba Ijesha. Those cases were cases of public interest appeal. I know that it must have thrown up a lot of challenges. How did you deal with those challenges at that time?
Well, let me start with Evans. Evans was arraigned in 2017 before me, and he was arraigned 2 cases, not just one. And over a period of time, he changed his counsel, I don't know how many times, about 3 or 4 times. Even at the last moment, he changed his counsel. And those are one of the challenges which further delayed the case. The prosecution found some difficulty in getting its witnesses to court. And this was also a challenge. Public interest, everyone wants to know the outcome. Even up to now, because if you remember, Evans' case was one of the first major kidnapper cases that we had in Lagos State. Kidnapping is very common now, but it wasn't so common in 2017. It was there. So those are the challenges we faced with Evans' case. I was able to deliver one judgment and convicted him for kidnapping. The other one involved a murder case. It involved murder and kidnapping. I wasn't able to finish it because the prosecution could not bring its witnesses to court. So during the process, I had to suggest to the prosecution that perhaps we should go virtual. Let your witnesses appear virtually and give testimony. And then they took up the challenge and filed an application for virtual hearing, and it was approved because now it's in the administration of criminal justice law. And so the witnesses appeared, and it was within this year that we did that. So you can imagine between 2017 and 2022.
How much time?
Yes, we could have saved a lot of time. So we did watch most of it virtually, most of the witnesses virtually, and I was able to do one of the cases. Baba Ijesha's case was also very challenging. We've already pinpointed the fact that it was a case of interest to everyone on the street. So the first day they brought him, the crowd was tremendous. They all wanted to be heard. But I had to read the Riot Act that please let the court handle this case. Don't crucify him before the court has heard. Cut down on the social abuse and God knows what else they were saying. I didn't read them. I wasn't even aware the case was coming to my court. It was all over the news that it is coming to the Special Offences Justice Taiwo. So I had to read the Riot Act to them. That, look, calm down. Let us do this case. Let the court handle it.
But I'm just wondering, what is the frame of mind of a judge, especially with all these cases of public interest and then people saying all sort of things. You know that whichever way the cases go, people are going to talk, whether the judgment is in their favor or not. What is the mind of a judge when you read all of these things that are being said about you on social media? Even if you don't go to look for it, people are going to forward it to you, your friends are going to send it to you. How does that make you feel? How do you handle that at that time?
Well, I don't really read it. I try not to get involved with that. I try not to read it. I stay focused on what I'm supposed to do. I do it with a clear conscience, and that is all. Social media will always be there. Even if if you tell them not to write anything, you read the write-up, they will still write. So it doesn't bother me in the least. I just do what I need to do and close my eyes and ears, so to say.
Milord, you also presided over some very controversial cases when you were on the bench. Two that readily comes to mind is that of the former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, and the former governor. What was your experience at that time?
Well, for me, it was just like any other case, except that some people played it out of hand, and it got to the issue of some people going on the internet attacking a judge even before the judgment. You understand? That was the only, but for me it was just like any other case, and I was fine on it until the petition came, and then I had to answer the petition. And thank God everything ended well. I have this attitude to life. I don't care what you say, as long as I'm clear, my conscience is clear. Anybody who's aggrieved, they can go to the Court of Appeal or go to the Supreme Court from there.
Milord, during the celebration of the new legal year, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, complained about the upsurge of pre-election matters that the court is saddled with. I know as at the last count, over 1,000 cases had been filed before that court. And what are your thoughts? Do you think the lawmakers were right to have given the Federal High Court exclusive jurisdiction to hear all of these pre-election matters?
I'm aghast as to why they came to that conclusion. Why should you saddle the Federal High Court with pre-election cases? How about the High Courts of the states or the other courts? Hey, for crying out loud, we earn the same salary. Yes, we do. So what is the rationale behind it? I don't know. What a Federal High Court judge can do in a pre-election matter in Abuja, a state high court in Lagos judge can do it. Is it not a matter of interpretation of the law, the Electoral Act, and the Constitution? What is so special that you now have to saddle an already overstretched court with pre-election matters, when you know that even those who lost at party primaries, they know they lost, they will still go to court. So you have a deluge of cases coming from electoral matter, pre-election matters. So I don't think it is right. And I believe that this is an aspect that they need to revisit so as to download, let me use that word, the pressure on the Federal High Court in pre-election.
Well, I agree with him. I mean, I sat as the chairman of the tribunal, and it can be quite tasking. You have to be there all the time. You leave your state, you go to some other state to sit as a chairman of the tribunal, and for months, you abandon or you're not able to attend to those cases in your own court. So I understand where my Lord is coming from. And I think, maybe perhaps they need to revisit this issue of pre-election matters. Especially, you could use retired judges. You could use retired lecturers. So, that can help to, alleviate the problem of the number of cases that judges have to deal with. Nigeria is a very controversial country. We litigate on almost anything, and overworking judges, of course, it's a health hazard. Some have neck, some have knees, some people are ill. It takes a lot from a judge. It takes a lot. Many people think that being a judge is a privileged position. I think it's a service to the country.
Now let's talk about reforms, and I know that you've mentioned some of them, but what are some of the reforms that you would like to see in the administration of justice in the country?
Well, I'm sure as a journalist you're aware that the judges have been agitating for better pay, welfare package. My salary has not been reviewed since I became a judge in 2004. I've been more or less earning the same salary since 2004. Thank God we have a state government. Lagos state government has tried for us. They've increased our allowances over the years, but still yet it's not enough. It cannot be enough. If you want to maintain that aura of transparency, accountability, incorruptibility, you need to take care of your judges. Health-wise, we need good health packages, insurance and all that, so that anytime we're ill, we don't have to run cap in hand to the governor. Please, we're ill, we have to travel, So, all these things need to be taken care of. And of course, equipment in the courts. Make sure every judge has the same thing. Some judges will have court recorder, some will not. No. And then the staff, you make sure the staff are up to, we still have some archaic staff that I think they're in the 1960s. They haven't changed much in terms of intellect, in terms of using the computer, So all these things need to be looked into and really, really addressed. But I have to say, as I've said before, that Lagos state government has really tried, and there's always room for improvement. There's always room for more. And I know that, God willing, things will change for the better.
I know it's going to have to affect those of us who are also retired.
Yes, that's
because
another thing.
What comes in as a salary of a retired judge is nothing to write home about. Absolutely nothing to write home about. Yes, there's nothing.
Yeah. The
So
federal
you
government has tried.
no, you must be able to take care of your judges while they are sitting
Yes, and
and
afterwards.
afterwards, so that they won't look forward while they are sitting. I'm not going to say more than that.
Yes, well, we retired more or less at the same time. He retired in July. I retired in September. I know that the Federal High Court has paid his gratuity.
I even got my alert for my
And
pension
he got
yesterday.
his pension, and he's gotten his pension. Within a month, they had settled it. Lagos State, since I retired in September, I haven't received any pension. I haven't received any gratuity. And, the matter went to, the National Industrial Court. And I think, yes, Justice Candide Johnson, I took it to court. And some other judges too. And it's very sad.
That way.
I think it's very, very sad. I know the amount.
Despite the court case, nothing has changed. Because
I haven't received anything.
Those court cases and the government came and said, give us time to handle this, we'll settle.
Well, I don't know what they're doing. Certainly, I haven't received anything. Not my pension. In fact, my September salary, they stopped. And I worked throughout September. And I think it's very, very unfair. I've devoted how many years? 33 years to Lagos State government. I need my gratuity. I need to be appreciated. And that's the only way they can appreciate judges, retired judges, by paying our gratuity on time, by paying our pension, and taking care of us generally.
What's next for you? I know that I read online that you have an NGO.
Yes, I do. I've had it for some time actually. It's called A Little Sleep, A Little Slumber. You know, we train women on skill acquisition, you know, to alleviate their poverty level, to get them to raise above, you know, their poverty, and to, you know, to change their lot generally. So we train them in many areas, and it's been on for some time. About 2 weeks ago, we graduated about 73 of them. Young people, not just old, young people in their 20s, you know, who perhaps cannot go further than what they in education. They train on a particular area that they have a passion for. And from there, they can make money and fend for themselves and their families, you know. So it's one of my passions, and I'm going to devote more time to it. I also write. I wrote a little book by myself. I also write. I'm also interested in teaching. I love to teach. I will go into that again and see where that takes me. And then, of course, I'm a grandmother, so I have more time to be with my grandchildren and devote more time to them.
What are you writing at the moment?
Well, I wrote a small book called Courtroom Chronicles. You know, I distributed it at my retirement event. It's just, I took some cases that I had treated and turned them into stories. And then in the stories, I highlighted some legal issues. And this goes back to what I've said, the layman on the street. I wanted anyone who is a layman, if he picks up that book and reads, he will understand. Oh, this is why this judge delivered this. Oh, this is what happens. Because you find that invariably the layman does not understand. So I started with 6 cases that I had done, you know, and I turned them into stories. I like to write stories, and then highlighted some of the issues at the end of the story. So I will work on that. My editor said I should go and do some more. I should do 20, not 6.
So we're going to see more publications.
Yes, by God's grace.
All the best with that.
Thank you.
You know, I've always been in practice. I'm going back to my practice. But you know, I cannot appear in court anymore. But I can assist in some other ways, like there's arbitration, there's writing, and of course, people invite you to talk here and there, which I was not able to do while I sat. So I think it's going to be a very interesting retirement.
Congratulations again to my Lords Justice Toyin and Justice Taiwo. I thoroughly enjoyed my interview with them, and from here we wish them all the best with their future plans. And just before we go, let's quickly do a recap of the top trending stories from the courts.
We begin with the report that Justice Mariam Hassan of the Federal Capital Territory High Court has ordered the interim forfeiture of monies and properties recovered from a former Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The items include a sum of $889,000, over 305 million naira, and 15 properties in Kano and Abuja. Justice Hassan gave the order while ruling on a motion ex parte filed by the EFCC, in which it asked the court for an order of interim attachment and forfeiture of the properties in the schedule to the application, pending the hearing and determination of the substantive case. Still in Abuja, the Federal High Court has sentenced the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council of the Labour Party, Mr. Toyin, to 2 years in prison. Justice Ijomo Ojukwu sentenced him for contravening Sections 16, subsection 1 and 2 of the Money Laundering Act, and for accepting cash payments without going through a financial institution in excess of the amount allowed. In the alternative, the trial judge held that Mr. Okukwe could pay a fine of 500,000 naira on each of the counts for which he was convicted, and that is counts 34 to 59, which is equivalent to 13 million naira. He was released later the same day following payment of the 13 million naira fine. At the same Federal High Court, the Chief Judge of the court, Justice John Soho, declined an application by the Department of State Services, DSS, to arrest and detain the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Justice Soho, while declining the motion ex parte filed by an applicant in the absence of the respondent, said the secret police did not provide any concrete evidence to substantiate its claims that Emefiele was involved in terrorism financing and economic crimes. At the proceeding, the judge noted that the name of the respondent was given simply as Godwin Emefiele, without a material disclosure that he is the same person as the CBN governor. In London, the Central Criminal Court has denied bail to the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu. The court, which is also known as the Old Bailey, in a pre-trial hearing, gave its verdict denying the bail on grounds that Ekweremadu would flee the country. The court also stressed that the bail would not make much difference, especially as the trial is just over a month away. Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice were arrested on June the 23rd and charged with conspiracy to traffic a person for organ harvesting in violation of the Modern Slavery Act 2015. And outside of the courtrooms, we round off with the report that the Nigeria Bar Association rose from its recently concluded National Executive Council meeting with a resolve to sanction all its members involved in the promotion of a parallel association, Law Society of Nigeria. The body particularly resolved that a past NBA General Secretary, Mr. Nimi Wilson-Jack, who acted as a solicitor to the promoters of the new Law Society, be stripped of his privileges as past General Secretary and consequently be suspended from being a member of the National Executive Council of the association. On the letter by the NBA president to the chairman of the body of benchers, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Chief Wale Olanipekun, to recuse himself, the National Executive Council ratified all the steps taken by the NBA president in relation to the matter and passed a vote of confidence on him, while declaring that all the steps he had taken so far on the issue are for the benefit of the bar and the legal profession.
And that's the program for today. If you missed any part of it, you can find it on past episodes on our YouTube channel. Do also give us feedback via any of our social media platforms. I'm Shola Sheyele. Thank you for watching and see you next time.